Yes, we are. We're live. Good morning, mediums. Welcome to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. It is season 2, episode 57. I am Josh Hayes here with my co-host, as always, Scott Moon. And today we're hanging out by ourselves. We've had some issues with our guest connection-wise, and so we'll see if those can get fixed up here pretty quick. And if they do, then we'll pull them onto the show. If we don't, sadly, you're stuck with Scott and Josh all by yourself.
Yeah, hashtag stuff happens, right?
Yeah, so we may do some impromptu Q&As or AMAs, whichever.
AMAs,
letters.
What's an AMA?
Ask me anything, but it would actually be ask us anything, so it'd be AUA. So we may do some impromptus of that. We're gonna kind of hail back to our TNL days and start out with a little bit about what we got going on, since we haven't done that in a while. So Scott, feel free to share what exciting things have been going on in your life.
First of all, I'll never doubt you again, because you said we're going live. I'm like, we're not going live. I don't see the button. It's not popping up. We talked about some last minute changes, and I said, well, too bad you don't have an overlay for that book mention we're going to do.
But I do.
Teaser, but he's like, oh, I can do that, no problem. I said, all right. So doubted. Now I'm back, and
you never doubt
like that. So back, it's kind of good we're doing this. I've been missing actually the TNL quite a bit, and this is something that's fun to do. So this week, and like in the good old days, I have no idea I had nothing prepared, but I did do things. So I had some time off for undisclosed surgery, which we're not going to talk about. It's really not important.
Right.
Not important, not at all. But and so we talked about that. It's one of those things you think, like, I'm going to get a bunch of writing done. I'll get a bunch of reading done. I'll catch up on the Game of Thrones, which I still haven't. So please, no spoilers.
Is that something we can like do and then spoil anyway after the fact, or no?
No, don't spoil it. Of course, I've read the books several times, but
let's see, you're above the curve then.
The series is quite a bit different. So anyway, so what I did, I wrote some stuff today. I worked quite a bit on a fantasy project that I'm not really going to make a big deal of, because I'm not sure when or if I'll ever do it. There's some new marketing paradigms about releasing stuff and not saying too much about it before you release it. Maybe we can talk more about that. I'm not sure I am an expert on that particular concept, but basically it's kind of goes back a little bit short. Yeah, it goes back to what Chris Fox was saying about your data science, and that you don't want to have, your mom's quilting club buying your military science fiction horror book, because then Amazon gets confused as to who the readers are. So Jason Anspach and Nick Cole have recently put out a kind of a newsletter thing and an after action report, and they talked a little bit about that in more depth, about what it means to get pure data to Amazon. So that's the fantasy thing.
They did it really good. Their Galaxy's Edge series.
Yeah, they launched high and they stayed high for a long time.
Yeah.
They had a lot of factors that went into that. I went ahead and paid for their course type thing that they did. And I love a good course, and I love information. So I don't really know how much of it, like I said, I haven't tried any of these things, but a lot of it harkens back to getting your book and showing Amazon who are the readers, not just anybody, any random people that'll get your free book or your discounted book or whatever you push. So wrote some fantasy, working on the collaborative project. We're back and go on that. Our collaborator was busy with other things for a while.
Full swing.
Yeah. Now I got up at 3 a.m. today to make sure I had some time, and worked on it for almost 4 hours. So I'm getting caught up on those scenes.
Very cool.
And I got almost done with Burning Sun. I'm kind of taking my time on it because I've missed the 90-day window. So I figure I'll publish it when it's right and not worry about the timing. Looking at a new cover. I got Tom Edwards to modify book 1, Bayonet Dawn, with the updated series title, which he did lickety splits. That was nice of them. Other than that, I'm hanging out, recovering, chilling with the family, and watched the CrossFit games all day yesterday. That's productive, but I don't know why. But it's something crazy about watching. That's ridiculous.
Yes, Mavis apparently liked it as well.
Mavis likes the CrossFit games. Mavis been going crazy.
That's awesome, man. It's been a heck of a week for us in our regular life here at the home, but also in struggling to get these writing projects done. I finally finished my last short story for probably a little while. I did how many have I done this year? 4?
Oh God, I don't know.
4, at least 3, possibly 4. And I was published in Steve Bolyer's superhero anthology, which I thought was a really good story. I was just today War released, so I'm gonna use that wicked cool overlay because I can. War is the third Nathan Heisted exploration anthology. Yes. This is, he's got Explorations Through the Wormhole, which I was in, First Contact, which I was in, and then War. And the short story that I have in War involves the same crew as that was featured in Through the Wormhole. So my first short story and that crew and those characters made a hand wavium comeback into this anthology because everybody liked those characters so much. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring them back. I can do whatever I want. So I brought them back, and I thought it was a pretty neat experience because hi, Guy. Hi, Chuck. Hi, Vicky. I thought it was a great experience because not only did I get to bring characters back from another story that I used previously in the anthology and got to explore them a little bit more, but then I was able to connect stories from 4 different authors and roll them all together in mine. So like I connected yours a little bit, Scott McGlasson's story, CC KK's story, mine. I thought there was another one. Maybe it was just 3. Who?
Jay Allen.
Well, yeah, kind of. My story is kind of the
before
setup for Jay's story, but so I was able to get that done, and that was shipped off. And then just 2 days ago, I finished my short story for Chris Kennedy and Mark Watney's.
Mark Wandry's.
Mark Wandry's. I said
for a few credits more.
Yes, for a few credits more. And that short story is a collaborative work with your short story in the same anthology. And so it's neat because Scott, and you can talk about it if you want, but your short story is from the perspective of these mercenaries and what's going on with them and kind of their goals, and those characters are also featured in mine, but from a different perspective. And so when you read Scott's story, you kind of get one half of the narrative, and you read my story and you get the other half into the narrative. And I thought that was pretty neat. I enjoyed kind of meshing our stories together, and that one came down to the wire because I don't know if you remember or not, Scott, but there was a time where I was like just ready to throw it all away and just not do it because it was just so. You get to a point in the story where you're like, yes, I love it, I love it, I love it, and you're like, nope, hate it. And fortunately, you talked me out of trashing
I nearly cried. Because when this first came out, we plotted this kind of storyline together, and it's interesting. I want to go back and talk about the War book cover later if we think about it, because we convinced Nathan to put his name on the cover, and he does such great work there, that Nathan Heisted, and he didn't, and I was like, you need to put that. So I think now it says Nathan Heisted Productions.
Yeah,
or something like
Nathan Heisted anthology. Yeah.
anthology. Yeah, because he does good work and he's been real kind to us. So, but anyway, so back to this story. We plotted this story out together. It's kind of a little bit of a thriller, space opera, military thing. And what made it hard for me
I
was
should show that cover because that's a pretty neat cover too.
do it. You show the two covers you made, and then show the one that's actually. Oh, I don't know if we can. Can we show that one yet?
Yeah, he's released it. So yeah, you talk about the thing and I'll find the cover.
Okay, so we write this story, and basically, without giving spoilers, honestly,
Spoiler!
There's a character who is wanted by the peacekeepers. Which, if you're familiar with the Four Horsemen universe, you know about the peacekeepers. They're kind of like the law enforcement
Right.
or
No,
regulatory
peacemakers.
Peacemakers. Did I say peacekeepers?
Yeah.
Peacemakers. So kind of like the peacemaker pistol from the Old West, I guess. But
Yes.
anyway, so the story is there's a character that is a member of my mercenary crew who does something and now he's wanted. So, and Josh's story deals with that, and it's freaking fantastic because I read the early version, and as it's going through, it's really intense and suspenseful. It's something you're not going to get a lot of in science fiction, in my opinion. So I was really pumped. So I let him write most of his, and then I read it, and then I wove my story into it. And the problem I have is that it seems like my story is about what his story is about. So I had to somehow have enough conflict and resolution separate from his story while still keeping them linked together, which I found was really a lot harder to do than I thought. And I got it done, I think. And I really, it's one of my favorite stories. But having said that, when Josh said, I don't know if I'm going to finish this, or I don't know if I'm going to turn this in, I was like, oh God, because my story's okay, but it's a lot better if you read Josh's too. So I did about cry, and I was like, it's okay. You can go ahead. I know you have to get on with your life and do other things. Don't worry about me.
Well, and I'm glad that you talked me into it, dude, because it's one of those things, you get pumping on a story and you have one story arc in your head and a timeline for it, and you know kind of what you're going to be doing with it, and then you get feedback, say, from your story, and I was like, oh, that's completely not how I envisioned this going.
Right.
And so you had to kind of redo everything that I already had planned in the story, and so it was very kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But it took probably about 2 days to figure it out. And here's the cover for the one that we're talking about.
This is, I believe, I just messaged Chris Kennedy. So this will be available for sale on September 15th, I believe is the launch date that he gave me, at least. So it's coming right up. If you look at some of the other authors that are in that one, they're awesome as usual.
Which I'll point out that Nick Cole, Peter Cardrone, Terry Mixon, Tim C. Taylor, me, Scott, there's a couple other people. But David Weber is doing the forward for this. And when I found that out, I was super excited that I had decided to finish the story, because now I'm published in a book that David Weber has contributed to. And that's awesome, because he's one of my favorite authors. And coincidentally or not coincidentally, he'll be on the show on the 28th of this month. So, but yeah, this covers, David Weber. So this cover is really cool. I mean, they're doing a couple anthologies that kind of, the titles of the anthologies are kind of like a spinoff from the old Clint Eastwood spaghetti Western movies. So the first one, what was the first one?
Fistful of
Credits. Fistful of Credits. And this one's a few credits more. And then I think there's going to be another one, but still in that realm of.
It was interesting because they gave us the what would you call it? Not the monster manual. You can tell I played too much D&D as a kid.
Oh, the primer.
The primer, and it had a lot of very detailed stuff about the universe and how things work and what you can do, what you couldn't do. And I wound up listening to Josh's story because I'd put it on my @Read Aloud app on my phone, drive to work, listen to Josh's story. I'd listen to the primer over and over again, trying to get the tech at least somewhat close. World Bible, there you go.
World Bible. Nice word, Chuck.
Good word. So that was very different. And since we're doing a lot of collaborative writing, and that seems to be a big thing in the industry, working with Josh, who I can yell at and stuff without getting too much trouble, is was a good practice. So maybe that's the takeaway from this episode: is before you get in a big collaborative project, try one with somebody you know and are familiar with their work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome. So show the covers that you made when we were developing the story.
Keep talking for like 5 minutes because I'm
5 minutes
putting the I'm putting it together. Well, okay, like 2 seconds I'll be done.
2 seconds. Okay, 1,000 now.
Easy.
Yeah, it's a little bit like fighting in a jiu-jitsu match. 5 minutes is a long time. Although I could probably talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I'm gonna put them both in the same slide so I don't have to change them. I'm gonna make them both the same size.
So while you're doing that, the group is talking a lot about Firefly and Farscape and whatnot, which is interesting. I'm working on another collaborative project, and I sent out a query to my newsletter list about Firefly, and I got more responses from that than any newsletter I've ever sent out. I think I probably still have 20 of them I got to go respond to.
Really?
Everybody had a comment, an opinion. Most of them liked it. Some people didn't. People gave me their analysis of the series. They gave me their favorite story about how upset they were that it ended. And I actually had not watched the entire series. So my father-in-law gave me the DVDs, and I've been watching those like a madman. But yeah, it's every bit as cool as because I'd seen some of it, and I had seen the movie Serenity. Is that the movie that kind of was?
I've got the set.
Right here. See, I have that out there right now in the living room, and then I got, as a bonus, my father-in-law brought me the entire Farscape series too, which I'd only think I'd watched the first couple back before I went to night shift and never had time to watch TV anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so I finished the. Boom. There's the two. Oh, look, and I'm framed very nicely in between.
No, that's weird. There's like 3 books. One of them's Josh.
I'm like Vanna White holding the books up. Can I get my? There we go.
There you go.
I don't know. It's all backwards, so I don't know.
So
yeah, mine's Leverage over here, and then Boss, Scott's short story over there, and they're just kind of placeholder little marketing.
I put mine on my webpage.
Obviously, they have their own cover in the anthology, but I love playing with Photoshop and meh.
And the number one best-selling author is probably more of a daydream than
nope, that's 2. Checked. Nope, we've done it twice. Well, you weren't in Wormhole, but we did it in First Contact. So
see, there you go. Now I don't feel bad for that. So earlier I said my story couldn't be the same as Josh's storyline, and what my story turned out to be about was the conflict between Johnny Boss, who's the head of this mercenary group, and his second in command is a little bit of a psychopath, and kind of they're vying for control. So that worked out to be a pretty damn good story. If I don't. Yeah,
I was pleased with both of them. It's funny because when I originally had the story planned out and kind of storyboarded out, when we were talking about it, we've been kind of talking about these 2 short stories for, what do you think, Scott? Maybe 4 or 5 months before we actually stopped procrastinating and actually wrote them.
Yeah, well, we did a big spurt. We had Chris, I think, or maybe it was Mark. I can't remember which was on first, but we had them on the show like in around March, maybe.
Yeah. And then we need to get them both on at the same time.
Oh, we do. We went on a huge firestorm of writing and planning, and then we moved on to the other 35 projects that are out there that got to be done. And then I came back a little bit before you did, and I decided I was going to finish mine, and it turned out to be fairly long for a short story.
Yeah.
And then I said, by the way, no pressure, but you're going to ruin my life if you don't finish your story. And turn it
in. Well, what's funny about that is the original story that I had planned, I originally thought, man, it'll be like, I don't know, 8,000 words. We'll just say 8,500. The final draft I turned into Chris was like 13.6 thousand. And he sent me a message because I sent him that it was due July 31st. And so like at 11:45 on July 30th, I sent him an email with the 13,000 word short story. And And I said, hey, I like playing by the rules, so I wanted to get my book in on time, and here it is. And then he sends back a message, and he's like, interesting that you say the
By the
rules
rule.
because the word cap was 10,000. And I'm like, well, crap. So then I spent a day cutting it out, and I got it down to 10,099 words. 10,099 words. And I said, man, I should have just left it, that one word in there, and left it like an even 11,000.
Yeah, because I bumped a little bit over too. We almost wrote a novel basically because my first draft was over 12,000. I think I got a little bit under 12,000 before what I turned in, and he hasn't sent me too much hate mail on it yet, so it must be okay.
he was hating on me pretty good on Facebook this week.
Come on, dude.
He kept tagging me and Mark, going 10,000, not over. So that's my bad. Sorry about that, Chris.
Yep. Shout out. So it's all part of the collaborative effort. You never know what you're going to get.
It's like a box of chocolates.
Like a box of chocolates.
So while we're kind of blabbering on about whatever, I'd like to say that whoever's watching, if you've got any questions for Scott or I on any topic, on anything, anything you want to talk about, go ahead and slap it in the live chat, and we'll talk about it within reason, folks. Within
reason. It might be good. People that came in the middle. We had a guest scheduled for today that had ran into some difficulties, so we'll reschedule that. So that's why you're just looking at two, and you're not confused. We'll change the show poster later, but I think people probably are still seeing the one with our guest on there.
Yeah,
if you're live.
Well, it's not on the YouTube deal, but yeah, we'll change the title. So the other, I wanted to talk. The other thing I was wanted to talk about was the type of collaboration that we were doing on our short stories. That a lot of people they're talking about collaboration in novels, and it's going on. It's launching pretty big right now, where people are talking about writing in other people's universes, or co-writing novels, or doing whatever. But I don't see a lot about it in short stories, and I think it's really neat that Scott, you and I had the ability to do that, because you can put so many cool little Easter eggs in your stories that don't take a huge investment, and especially like if you can work with, I think it's cool that what Nathan does with the exploration series, because he brings all the authors into the group, and then they can kind of spitfire ideas back and forth, and it really kind of, not only does it give authors a platform to publish works on, but you can network and collaborate with other authors, and it's really neat to talk about writing and your stories that way, and kind of take little bits from, like your story, Scott, I can put into mine, and I like that a lot. I think it's really cool. You don't overdo it, but I think that's really cool, and I'd love to see that more in short stories. Chuck says, you guys know of any single author short story collections? I'll be finishing mine today, and was looking for authors to analyze on Amazon. Not off the top of my head, I don't know any of those. I know that there have been authors that, they have 5 or 6 short stories that they just have published randomly and then do collections. For some reason, I think Drew Avera just did one, but
he does a lot
Drew
of
Avery, not
stories.
Avera. He does a lot of short stories, but I'm looking through his thing right now.
I'm looking at Chuck's page and trying to remember what Chuck, if you're still there, when is your short story thing coming out? We'll get that.
Yeah, and I remember he posted on the group page a little while ago, and he was talking about, I mean, it was all different short stories: fantasy, science fiction, contemporary mystery, and all that. And honestly, I think I was planning on doing that too with mine. I get the rights back to a couple of my short stories here at the end of the month, and they're going to publish them separately, and just for 99 cents, just to have something else out there. But probably eventually we'll do a collection of all of them.
Yeah.
And just so you can have that out there, and people can pick and choose and see, and why not? I mean, if you've got the material, why not do it? Chuck says it'll be out next week-ish sometime. So Chuck, let us know when that comes out, and we'll share that around for sure.
We'll push that out.
Guy Anthony DeMarco says, I'd be interested in getting an invite list for these anthologies. What's the best way to get on the list? The best way to get on the explorations list is send Nathan Heisted a message on Facebook or email him. It's just Nathan Heisted, Hystad on Facebook, and his email that he goes by is Woodbridge, info at woodbridgepress.ca. Let me double check that. But
Probably
he,
get the Sci-Fi Explorations contact as well.
yeah, sci-fi-explorations.com is where we do a lot of our newsletter stuff, and we have a group of authors that are engaged in that. Steve Bowyer, I think, is looking for authors in his superhero supervillains and superheroes. Nope, that's the author.
Right. He did the same thing last time. He writes a superhero book and then a supervillain book, and they're both collections of anthologies, depending on which way you want to go with that. And I think he had a cancellation just recently that he was looking for another author. So
Yeah,
he's going to open it up a little bit.
I can't find if there's a public post, but if you search superheroes and via villains, you'll see an author only group, and you'll see another open group. Steve Bowyer, which is spelled Beaule or Lieu, on Facebook, runs those. I was in his first superhero anthology, and I think, Scott, you're in either the supervillain one or the superhero
I'm in the
one
superhero one coming up, so it's a little harder than I thought because I haven't written any superhero stuff for a while, which is funny because I watch it all the time. Obviously, you can't hardly not with all the movies coming out.
Yeah.
That guy Anthony DeMarco says Brad Torgensen has a nice collection out from World Fire Press of short stories. Imagine.
Yeah, I said that I'm done writing short stories for a while. But I did enjoy writing more so than I thought I was going to enjoy the short stories. Yeah, Vicky, if you want to try to do that villain one, send him a message.
Villain versus villain. There you go.
Definitely search that on. I know that he had a couple of openings, and I'm sure that he's going to continue the series. It did fairly well when he released, so yeah, check those out. Those are great anthologies to be a part of for sure. And Steve and Chris and Nathan, all those guys are really easy to work with.
Chris Fox, of the 5,000 words an hour fame and his Destroyer series, he's doing an anthology for space fantasy. That I'm not sure when the deadline is for that one, and that had a ton of people submitting for it. So it's kind of one where you can't really guarantee you're going to get in there. I'm going to send something. I have it partially written, but we'll see if that happens or
not. Michael Cooper has several.
Michael Cooper
coming up. He is
Craig Martell also.
Yeah, I know. I think that I saved his deal. Michael Cooper, who's been on the show a couple of times, he writes the Aeon 14 series and space opera. We had him on the show to talk about epic space battles a few months ago. Right. He is running a series of short story collections that he already has scheduled out until like next year sometime. I told him that I'd love to get on the one. I think at the very beginning of next year. And they can basically be about anything. And I can't find the link right now, but I'll look for it and see if I can't put it in the show description. I can't remember if there was an open call or what, but I'll look into it. You can also touch base with him on Facebook or go to his website to see what his contact information is. But he was looking for a whole bunch of authors to contribute. Like I said, I can't
message him right now. This is while we're sitting here and ask. Well, we had to type.
Yeah, I'll send him a message. Let's see.
Michael M.D. Cooper is what his books are published under. His name is Michael Cooper, but M.D. Cooper, Michael Anderle, and Craig Martell are three guys that I've seen lately that kind of fall into their own category of like super producers. They got this crazy work ethic. They produce really fast. They do lots of collaborative stuff. They know how to get the Facebook and Amazon marketing service and all those things right, apparently, because really know how to get things to happen. They have some big followings on Facebook also, and all pretty approachable when it comes right down to it. We had them all on the show, so weird.
It's for the best show ever.
That's what we like to say.
All right, I shot him off a quick message, so we'll see if he responds. Hurry up, Michael, and respond before the show's over.
Here we're like reaching out to industry moguls
your
as we do the show. See, that's how things happen.
What else did happen this week? I went and saw The Dark Tower, and no spoilers, but I gave it a 1 star on Rotten Tomatoes this morning.
Which is really sad because Josh and I, we are both probably
huge Dark Tower fans.
The biggest Dark Tower fans.
That's probably why I gave it such a bad review.
Right. It's hard.
Because I think that I think going into the movie, if you didn't know anything about The Dark Tower, going into the movie, maybe it could have been a different experience. But going into it and having read the series twice and loving the characters, and I don't even care that they pinned Idris Elba as the gunslinger. I love him as an actor, and I thought he did a really good job acting. But the story was, oh my gosh, and they tried to take so many different things from the series and jam them into the movie, and it was like they're trying to get new people interested in the series, and then also make longtime fans of the series happy.
Yeah.
But the small things that they put in there, like North Central Positronic, they didn't even mention it. Like it was just initials stenciled on a machine somewhere. And
it would be a little bit. It would be very similar to if they took the entire Game of Thrones series and tried to make it into one 90-minute movie.
Yes,
because it's about that complex. I mean, the Dark Tower series by Stephen King is 7 books. They're all big old giant monster books.
It's like 1.3 million words if you're counting.
And there's just no way. Yeah, there's no way you can stick that all in. You kind of got to pick.
Yeah.
Are you gonna explain it to everybody, or are you gonna just write the first little bit and see if people want to keep going with it?
Yeah, Guy says he's never read the series, so he'll probably watch it. I encourage you to watch it. I'm positive if I'd never read the books and didn't go into it with such a high expectation of the story, I probably would have liked it, because some of the action scenes are really neat. But knowing the story and the characters and everything that was involved in, like Scott said, through the 7 books was kind of a letdown.
I read someplace in a screenwriting book that a good movie adaptation should not be a slavish recreation of the book, and that it should be basically based on the book.
Right.
Because they're different mediums, and I tend to agree with that. And so I go into movies knowing that it's not going to be like the book, and I try not to think about it too much. Having said that, I'm enjoying Game of Thrones season 6. No spoilers on season 7, please. Thank you.
Oh my God, last night's episode was amazing.
And you said the same thing to me last year on season 6, but I couldn't get caught up on it. But now that, to me, because I've read the Game of Thrones several times all the way through, and to me, now that the movies are kind of, or this TV series is kind of going off track a little bit, kind of making up some of their own stuff, and they've collapsed a bunch of characters and storylines, it's actually more interesting to me because it feels new.
Right.
Whereas the first 2 or 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, I'm like, that was close, but that's dumb.
Yeah. Well, and they said too that they were doing some different things, but the difference that I think with the Game of Thrones, and we'll compare it to the Dark Tower since we have already been talking about it, is that with Game of Thrones, they changed things that didn't really affect the story. Right. Like, for instance, spoiler alert, in the book, Catelyn comes back as the Grey Lady after she's killed in the Red Wedding, and she does not come back in the series, or hasn't yet. So there's still a potential for her to come back. But so that doesn't really affect the series. It just affects kind of that character and who they can do things with. Now, with the Dark Tower, they changed everything about the series. So and like I posted in my review, the only thing that the movie shares with the books is that there's a character named Roland. They're in Midworld, and he's got a sidekick named Jake, and that's it. Literally, that's it compared to the books.
No Blaine is a train. Blaine is a pain.
I know Oi. Oh my God.
No Oi. No forgetting the faces of their fathers.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's in the Game of Thrones. There's a good example for in the Game of Thrones. Aemon, what's the maester on the wall?
yeah, Targaryen.
Yeah, he travels to Old Town with Samuel Tarly
Hmm.
and Gilly and the baby, and
Right.
there's a whole big thing about how they did the kid switch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is not and they couldn't put it in the series. It would be too much. It's just too much. There's about
Yeah.
5 really cool characters from the Daenerys storyline that they just don't even have at all. There's some of
Yeah.
my favorite characters. There's no
Uh,
strong Belwas. Makes me
Titch
sad.
Titchfield says that he'd be much more interested in seeing the King Killer Chronicles as a TV series from Patrick Rothfuss. I would
I could
too.
do that.
I've read the first quarter of the first book and have not finished it. Everybody that I tell that to tells me that I'm freaking crazy and that I need to finish the book. Um, I'm sure I will. I've got the hardback back here somewhere. I'm right in the
Yeah.
middle of my second read through of the Stormlight Archives because the third book comes out in November, and those
Yeah.
books are phenomenal.
Rothfuss is a super cool guy. If you ever met him in person, he
Yeah,
he cracks me up. I saw him at OWFI. I can't remember if that's one that Vicky Kennedy put together or
yeah,
not. It's definitely her conference, but yeah, he was a keynote speaker, and he has this children's book that he read. And when we first started reading it, he's at the keynote, and everybody's dressed up, and he's wearing his T-shirt and his beard, and he starts reading this book. That's a kid's book he wrote, and I was really sad because I don't like to see people embarrass themselves. And so when he very first started, I was like, "Oh God, this is going to be very painful." But then he started to pick it up, and then you realize he's a master storyteller, and he slayed it. I mean, by the time he got done,
nice.
he got standing ovations, and I went actually bought the $18 kids book, and I showed it to my wife and kids, and they're like, "That's really way too creepy because it's pretty dark." But you got to read it like 3 times to get all the subtleties of this kid's book. So anyway, that's another. I would be interested in seeing the King Killer Chronicles. Some
Chuck
sort of
Chuck says that the Altered Carbon looks like they're making it into a movie, and that does. I hope that happens because that book was really good. Once I got past kind of the noir-ish type narrative, because
that's
it
my
is kind
favorite
of
part.
it's kind of a different narrative
What about the
than
erotica part?
yeah.
Is that going to be in the movie?
Yeah,
He
that's
goes
probably
there.
not going to be in the movie. But I tell you, I was listening to that on Audible, and I had it piping through my car speakers, and my daughter's sitting in the back watching Bubble Guppies, and here comes this scene with him and that old lady, and I'm like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, we're gonna have to stop here. We got
I tell you,
that
whatever movie I'm excited to see, or what other movie I'm excited to see is Ready Player One,
that
because
could be good.
that book was phenomenal, and from the trailer that I've seen already, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. But we'll see.
Yeah, Stephen Manley, Chuck the Man, Chuck Manley in the
Chuck the Man,
chat.
Chuck Manley.
I think he's referring to Altered Carbon still, and that he's right. It's sex and violence all the way through.
Yeah, it's
It
very
makes
true.
it makes Game of Thrones look like a PG-13 matinee masterpiece.
That's right.
I'm not kidding.
I
Although
haven't read the other books though in his series.
I've only read the first one because I've got several other things on my plate right now. I'm actually listening to Unfathomed by Ralph, one of our show
Michael Kramer
partners,
narrated that one.
and he did, and that was wild hearing that. And that's and that I mean that really should be, and of course we're all friends of Ralph here and stuff, but that really should be his breakout novel because that thing is way up there. It's pro all the way. So
I got to read it in its like pre-beta stage. He sent it to me. I need to get the audiobook so I can listen to it because I'll listen to anything
it's
Michael
pretty
reads.
intense. It reminds me of like Lost if Lost didn't suck at the end, and and like what's the guy that does all the sea treasure type adventures, Clive Cussler.
Oh yeah. Clive
Like
Cluster.
Clive Cussler meets Lost, and
Yeah.
so I'm curious to see where it goes because it's getting pretty rough for some of the characters now. I'm about 2/3 of the way through before I got sidetracked with my little sabbatical I had to take at home here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good books, a lot of good movies, hopefully coming out this year. our super secret collaborative project book should be out here in a few months. Yay! And then we can talk about it. And then either everybody's going to be yay, or they're going to be like, you guys rock, you're the coolest people ever.
Yeah,
we all know which
they'll definitely be ready to stop hearing the teasers and stuff, but I just can't stop. I can't stop teasing. I'm just
teasings.
Takashi,
this should be one of the things we do a spoiler alert on.
We should. Takashi, if you haven't read the Altered Carbon, Takashi Kovac is the main character, and I think that's a super cool name, by the way. Character name is something we should talk about on another show, because that's cool.
I think it's interesting when you talk about that, because the first thing I think of about character names is Game of Thrones and the way he made all the characters, at least the majority of their names, like regular names.
Yeah, pronounceable.
Like Robert and Catelyn and
but if you listen to the audiobook and you haven't read, because I read some of it, then I listen to the audiobook, and then I go back to reading it, and I'm like, that's how you spell Targaryen? Tyrion is spelled what?
Right.
What do you mean? What was the first one? Littlefinger, Peter Baelish? Not spelled I thought it was going to be spelled.
Yeah, Pitar.
Right.
Yeah.
That depends on the narrator, I guess.
Vicky, the reason we can't talk about the Super Secret project is we don't want to build up hype until it's finished. And once it's finished, then we'll then once we've got a publishing date for it, that's when we're gonna kind of reveal. And hopefully closer to then we'll have the covers ready to go, and we're gonna do kind of a media blitz with it, and hopefully we can beat out Nick Cole on his and Jason Onspach on their Galaxy's Edge.
We'll beat him up. Right. We'll bring him on the show.
Guys are going down.
And then we'll have some trash talking with them.
Oh yeah, we can bring him on the show and be like, ha ha.
They would probably be down for that, although I'm not sure who would win.
Yeah.
It could be an epic match off.
Their books are doing really good. Their third book's getting ready to come out here in a couple of months, I think.
I'm not sure I'd want to have do the dozens with Nick Cole. I think he's probably
we need to get him in his car again.
Yeah.
And have a Nick Cole surveillance standoff.
We reach out to some of our contacts and get him pulled over while he's doing that. Maybe not a good idea. I don't know. Probably not cool.
Excuse me, sir. You're talking on your phone.
You're gonna have to get out of the car. Keep your hands
I think
proof insurance.
We've got a couple of cool guests coming up. Craig Allenson, who writes it's the Expeditionary series. Is that right? Expeditionary.
I was reading the chat.
Craig Allenson. He'll be up next week.
Oh yeah.
He is super excited about coming on, and apparently Expeditionary Force. He's got props, and he is ready for a good show. He's been sending me messages like, oh, my wife and I got these props and all these different things that we're going to do for the show, and I think your viewers are really going to like it. So that should be a really fun episode.
We like props. We did get a gentle reminder from the chat room if we do. We have a sponsor for this show?
No, but we're going to have an impromptu prompt sponsor and say this episode is brought to you by Explorations War,
which is released
yesterday. Today or yesterday. No,
soft launch
was yesterday. Hard launch is today. Yes. So if you have not purchased Explorations War, go do so. Scott and me are featured in it, or Scott and I are featured in it.
Yep. Along is where I ride on Josh's coattails and let him take to the top, and then
no. Yeah. However, I did hit number 13 in all of science fiction authors on Amazon last week because we had a promotion book bub run on Explorations. Explorations Through the Wormhole hit number 47 on all of Amazon last week.
That's so awesome.
And Ralph hit rank 12, and I hit rank 13 on all of science fiction authors. And Richard hit number 9. I think he was the highest. He hit number 9 on all science fiction authors, and that
he's like was
phenomenal. So I will put in a link to War in the live chat, and then we'll link it in the video description.
Any responses back on your queries about the anthology with
not yet,
Mr. Cooper?
Not yet. He's but go pick up War. It's out today. Read the stories, leave a review, do it, or doom will come onto your home and family.
that's one thing. The reviews on some of the other explorations anthologies are incredible because there's several people, they leave a review for each story.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, man, that's dedication right there.
Yeah. A lot of those good reviews are they really kind of nail down the story and say, I really like this story because not just this was a great collection of anthologies, like you said. It's really cool. Because so in War we have Richard Fox, Jay Allen, CCKK, Ralph Kern, Robert M. Campbell, me, Scott, Carolyn or C. Cockle, Scott McGlasson, which we have a funny story about that, and Nathan Heisted and Scarlett Algie, who also edited it. Scott McGlasson kind of had a me moment in his book, and
he went above and beyond the Call of Duty. Let's just say that
Scott McGlasson's story is the whale of our book. If you're talking about short stories, and we're like, all right, everybody write a short story, and Scott was like, nope, I'm writing a novella. So you guys, not novella, you guys can just have it. Bam. Yeah. So that was really fun. That was really funny. I have to give him crap about that. Sorry, Scott, I have to give him crap about it.
We're giving him a hard time because that was not expected. But yeah, he's an excellent writer. So it's good to have that in there.
Yeah. So we're reaching the end of the hour, and I think that we have done a really good job rambling today, Scott. I mean,
we should ramble more. We should, we really need to get back to our Thursday night live in a couple of months, maybe.
Because, hey, apparently War is number 4 in anthologies on the UK. Thanks, Ditchfield, for that bit of info. That was neat. Yeah. I don't know where we're at on Amazon.
I'm in a 9. Yeah, I've had a good time with that. The short story I wrote in that, I'm actually going to write some more for something else at some point, I'm sure, because I like that character.
Yeah, and the next anthology, which is Colony, I am not in, but Dennis E. Taylor is in it, the guy who wrote the We Are Bob.
Oh my goodness.
Trilogy. He's in it, and I can't remember now off the top of my head who the rest of it is, but Colony should be. Oh, Amy Duboff, I think, is in it.
Oh, sweet. Good deal.
So that should be a really neat collection too. Nathan does some really good collections. Hopefully he keeps it up. So Nathan, keep it up or else.
Or else. His goal is probably to be successful enough that we'll stop bothering him.
That's right.
Stop trying to get in my anthologies, you guys.
Well, thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with us on our impromptu AMA, AUA, or random, just talking about nothing episode. This was a great author's introduction to anthologies and movie book comparison episode.
Yep, is AMA, what'd you say?
AUA,
AUA, or AJA, or ASA. You could ask Josh anything.
So many letters.
Ask Josh anything.
So many letters. Well, guys, hey, if you're watching on the live feed, thanks very much for watching with us and hanging out with us. We really, really enjoy hanging out with you guys, especially on Monday mornings, and hopefully here pretty soon back on Thursday nights so we can drink some alcohol. But that's not the only thing we do. Let us know what you thought about the show. Let us know if you have any authors you want us to interview. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and share us around. Let your friends know. Make your friends come and hang out. Because the more people that hang out, the more fun we have. But if you guys have too much shenanigans,
don't ask them, make them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You make them come.
You get a commitment out of those people. They need to be listening to the show.
That's right.
It's what's best for them.
It is what's best for them. And really, it's what's best for the country. It is. Or the world.
Terrible person if you don't watch the show.
Inhuman.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, for Scott Moon, guys, I am Josh Hayes. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Don't forget to come back next time. We're talking to Craig Allenson next week, and 2 weeks we'll have David Weber. And who are we having on the 21st? I can't remember what you said.
We're having Darren Bullock and Nick Bailey.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The Liberator series.
Writer team. Come back and hang out with us. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing. And, of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. You guys have a great Monday.